The first sound on the recovered tape is my breath, slow, ragged, fogging the inside of the mask. Then the hull groans, a deep, wet sound that vibrates all the way into my teeth. Sonar ticks like a steady metronome. Somewhere behind me, a relay chatters. I reach out, gloves stiff, fingertips clumsy, and nudge the gain knob. The hiss of the trench swells until it fills the room I'm in now, months later, and the room I was in then, miles down. A steel sphere with windows like unblinking eyes. Depth, I hear myself say. Fear makes my voice thinner. I remember tasting rubber and iodine. 10,600, the captain answers, dry as chalk. Holding. Camera one's flaring. Our engineer says. Correcting. Keep the boom ready, the liaison adds. A smile in his voice. We get one shot at this. We all try to sound normal. We all failed. The ocean isn't normal at that depth. You can smell cold. You can feel pressure like a thought that won't leave you alone. The inside of my suit had its own weather, my breath warm against my cheeks, the rebreathers sweet with disinfectant and something faintly rotten. I licked salt off my lip and watched the screens. Ping, I said, marking anomaly vector. The sonar answered, soft, precise, and then the return skidded back wrong, dragged, like the trench had learned a new way to be deep. Say again, the captain asked. Return smeared, I said. Harmonic 3's gone, and something's giving it back. That's when I hear it on the tape now. A note that isn't a note, barely there, braided into the hiss. It slides under my skin before I can name it. A choir lost in a bottle. Pressure that wants to sing. Do you hear that? The engineer whispers. I can hear the sweat in his throat. No poetry, the liaison says. Visuals. The forward light punches a wall of silt. Particles spin like galaxies in a jar. The camera creeps, and black on black a curve appears. A smooth oval half buried where the seabed should be chaos. No seams. No bolts. Just an absence shaped like a door. My pulse thumps in the mic. Hold. Hold right there. It's just basalt, the liaison says. Get closer. The hull complains, and the captain ignores him. We hold. I lean toward the window until my helmet bumps the glass. The return pulse kisses the oval, and the sound that comes back isn't ours. It's a knock with a lull in it, a heartbeat folded into a lullaby. And then, impossibly faint, woven through noise like hair and rope. Do you hear it singing? We all go still. You can hear our silence on the tape, the humankind that tries to hide inside straight lines. Did somebody say that? The captain asks. Who keyed open? No one claims it. I don't press my talk key. My mouth tastes like a battery. My tongue remembers a copper penny. Alarms chirp, polite at first, then more insistent as the pressure differential shifts under our feet. The silt wall breathes. The oval warms. A seam flutters across its skin, not light, not shadow. A thin line of not black. Back us out, the captain says. Slow. From what? The liaison demands. There's nothing down here to. The note returns, no longer shy. It threads my name into itself with the exact cadence I grew up on. Not a recording, too heavy, too present. My brother used to say my name like that the last summer before the river took him. I feel the old ache pivot, face the dark, and take a step. Lights, I say. All floods. We pour artificial day into the trench. The seam shivers and holds like a mouth about to speak. It opens with a sound so soft it's intimate, a wet kiss pulled apart. There, I say, and I can hear what happens inside me, the way patterns click together like teeth. For a second, I forget how deep we are. I forget how easily things break. I am just a child with my ear to a door, listening to someone breathe on the other side. There's a door. Static blooms, hungry, total. It eats the rest of the transmission in one slow chew. Months earlier, the deck was flat as glass. Dawn made the sea an unblinking eye. I stood with a paper cup cooling in my palm and spoke into a handheld recorder, my voice steady, because I didn't know better. I said, I didn't come here for monsters. I came here for a pattern. I meant it. I still do. But some patterns are shaped like loss. Some doors don't need keys. They need you to want, so badly, to hear the voice you've already buried. The ship woke before I did. Diesel coughing, winch cables rattling like loose teeth, gulls arguing over a slick on the water. The deck smelled of hot metal and salt, coffee burned down to bitterness. Crates stenciled with the company logo sat like coffins under a gray sky. I held a clipboard I wasn't reading and watched the sea like glass flat to the horizon, a vast eye that didn't blink. They'd hired me to listen. That's what I told myself as I signed the last liability waiver with a pen that didn't want to work. Marine acoustic linguistics sounded noble on a contract. It felt smaller when you put your ear to the ocean and hoped it had something to say back that wouldn't ruin you. Captain Reyes cut through the bustle with a pencil behind one ear, raincoat cracked with salt. Windows 18 hours, she said. Weather says we're blessed. Act like it. The corporate liaison, Devin, sunglasses even in this light, checked a tablet like he was trying to speed up time with his thumb. Deliverables. High-res of the anomaly, environmental readouts, if possible a sample. Don't overthink it. Anna, our biologist, snorted without looking up from her crate of hydrophones. You say that like overthinking isn't why we come home alive. Tomo, the engineer, handed me a coil of fiber as if it were a sleeping snake. I warmed the hydrophones. Noise floor's clean, minus 72. You'll hear a flea whisper. I'm not listening for fleas, I said. I'm listening for patterns. Devin smirked. Same difference. The ROV hung from the crane like a lanternfish stripped of charm. The sub-sphere, clear acrylic, eyelashes of bolts, waited in a cradle, water beating on its skin. I palmed the hatch and felt the cool through glove and callus. It felt like the back of someone's hand just before they pull away. Whales, Anna murmured, tilting her head. A spout arced in the middle distance, then another. Sound crawled across the surface. Afar, elastic moan you feel more than hear. She listened the way some people pray. They've been circling the coordinates for days. Coincidence, Devin said. Language, I said, softer than I meant to. We loaded in, one by one, breathing the sweet rot of neoprene, the wedge of ozone from a soldering iron someone hadn't unplugged. Inside the sphere, the world shrank to 3 chairs and the soft green glow of instruments. When the hatch sealed, the deck noise cut away like a curtain. I heard my pulse, counted it down to calm. Checklist, Reyes said. Scrubbers? Nominal, Tomo answered. Thrusters, nominal. Flood valves, armed. Hydrophones. I clicked a switch. The trench found us, a vast, soft hiss, as if someone were shushing a cathedral. Under it, nothing, and the suggestion of everything. Online, Devin's voice came thin over the comms from topside control. Remember, we jam anything that interferes. We're not here to record a symphony. No jamming without my order, Reyes said, sharp enough to cut. We dropped. The cradle let us go with a shudder I felt through spine and teeth. Water climbed the windows in a sheet of silver, turned to green, then to cobalt. Sunlight fractured into knives, and then into memory. The surface peeled away a few meters at a time until there wasn't a surface. Only a weight above that grew and grew as we fell. At 200 meters, the last of the light left us. At 500, jellyfish drifted past like thought bubbles, their bells breathing in unison. At 2000, the world narrowed to the beam and the particles it caught. Marine snow tumbling slow motion past the dome like ghost weather. The hull creaked a little, the way old houses do when they settle and remember their bones. Sound check, Tomo said. You hearing what I'm hearing? I listened. A motif threaded the hiss. Low, then lower. 3 notes, then a gap. The pattern came back rotated, like someone turning a phrase in their hands. Humpbacks, I asked. Anna leaned between our seats, breath fogging the edge of my visor. It's too structured for contact calls. And, wrong season for a congregation. She didn't say the other thing. They were singing at us, not to each other. The trench wall rose in the lights, a black slope that absorbed the beam and did not give it back. Reyes trimmed our descent with tiny breaths of the thrusters, the world tilting as we eased toward the lip. Depth 8,600, she said softly, as if waking something might be a choice. Approaching target bearing. Devin's voice crackled. Clock's running, people. I swallowed the taste of copper at the back of my tongue. The coordinate on the map wasn't a place. It was an intention stitched into water. I stared at the screen where rectilinear anomalies showed up as lines against a world that hated lines and thought, not for the first time. I didn't come here for monsters. The ocean pressed in like a held breath. We crossed the lip of the trench and began to fall into the dark that keeps its own time. Somewhere above us, the The whales sang their measured negation. Somewhere below, something waited that had learned how to listen. At this depth, the beam makes a wall you can lean on. Silt turns to weather. Every mote is a snowflake, every current a wind. The trench floor rises to meet us in drifts and ripples that look like breath held too long. The sub hangs on its thrusters like a thought you can't swallow. Depth 10730, Reyes says, soft, as if numbers might echo and offend. Trimmed and steady. No sudden moves. Hydrophones are clean, I murmur. The hiss of the deep comes through my headset like cloth sliding over stone. I dial the sonar. Ping, ping. Our metronome. I listen for the way the trench refuses to be measured. ROV is hot, Tomo says. Umbilical's tight. Video up. On the monitor, the ROV's camera pushes a cone of light into the black. The manipulator hand opens and closes like a nervous habit. Particles roll past its eye. Then the silt yawns, and something impossibly smooth appears, curving out of the seabed like a knuckle under skin. Hold, I say. I hear my voice and don't recognize it. Backwash. Gentle. Reyes feathers the thrusters, and our downwash lifts a powdery veil. The thing emerges by inches, an ellipse half buried, basalt black, so clean it makes the rest of the world look indecent. No seams, no bolts, no algae, no beard of life. The light skates it and returns as if embarrassed. Just rock, Devin says from the surface, clipped consonants over the comms. Get closer. We need scale. Anna leans over my shoulder, breath fogging a crescent on the dome. Look at that surface. She speaks like the words might bruise it. It's warm. We can't know that, Devin says automatically. We can, Tomo replies. Thermal overlay shows 2 degrees above ambient. At 11,000 meters, nothing is 2 degrees above ambient. I swallow. The taste at the back of my tongue is copper and old coins. What would it feel like to put your hand on it? A thought I shouldn't be having. The hydrophones whisper, and I lay the spectrogram over my mind, looking for trouble. The sonar ping goes out with our usual polite certainty. The return doesn't come back like it should. It stretches. It lingers. It arrives as a soft, late knock. There, I say. Mark that delay. Another ping. Another knock, slightly closer to our beat, as if something on the other side of that sleek curvature is tapping along, learning the tempo of our heart. Do you hear? Anna starts, then stops, listening with her whole body. Far above, through water that weighs like a continent, the whales sing. Low, vowel-dark phrases, the punctuation of breath. Their calls lace our hiss like thread through cloth. The thing answers them. Not loud, not even clear. It folds a ghost of their song into the returning ping, like a hand on the other side of glass tracing your fingers. My skin crawls in a slow wave. Back us out, Reyes says. Maintain position. I want that ROV at 30 centimeters, no closer. Devin's voice tightens. We're not filming from the lobby. I need contact. A sample, if possible. Arm out. The manipulator obeys. The ROV's shadow hunks over the ellipse. On macro, the surface resolves into hair-thin lines. Glyphs that aren't quite lines so much as ridges, ripples frozen in stone, arranged in clusters that repeat with tiny, intentional variations. Ratios whisper at me. 1 to 2, 2 to 3, like the formants of vowels. My brain does what it always does. It starts reading. Don't touch, I hear myself say. Then what are we doing here? Devin shoots back. We didn't come 10 kilometers to be tourists. The ping goes out. The knock comes back, and this time there's a hitch in it. 3 notes low, then a breath, then 2 as if correcting. Tomo glances at his scope. Delays adjusting. It's listening. Anna says, awe and dread braided tight. It's listening back. In the dome, a faint shimmer crawls over the ellipse. A heat mirage where there should be no heat. The ROV's manipulator stops a handspan shy of the surface. I imagine it touching. I imagine that sleek skin opening the way lips do, the way wounds do. My stomach turns. Reyes, I say, and her name carries everything I can't say into it. We should go. We should run floors up and pretend we never heard this. Hold, she orders. To Devin, no contact until I say. The whales shift key above us, their chorus becoming measured, stern. Their phrases are old, older than our steel. The ellipse hums, not in sound, but in the way it reorganizes the silence around our hull. My headset ticks, tiny dead air moving like something alive. On the ROV feed, the glyphs, if they are glyphs, seem to tremble. It's only the particles. It has to be the particles. I trace a curve with my eyes and realize I am humming without meaning to. The melody from a long time ago, the one I promised myself I wouldn't give this place. I snap my teeth shut and stare at the screen hard enough to hurt. Enough, Devin says. Arm forward. Scratch it. Prove it's not the ping. The knock. The delay closes a fraction, like a hand sliding into yours. Cut the arm, Reyes says. We're not testing whatever that is. Tomo's fingers hover over the joystick. The ROV hesitates, mid-reach, like a dog that almost stole food from the table and thought better of it. I lean in until my helmet touches the dome. My breath fogs a circle. In the fog, reflected, my mouth shapes a word I don't say. Door. What I mean is a threshold. A question. A thing that expects an answer. The trench presses. The whales sing. The ellipse waits, warm in a world that is not. And in the hush between pings, a voice as thin as filament threads the static. No more than a suggestion of syllables, but I feel it more than hear it. Do you hear it singing? I keep my hands still, away from every switch. We all stop breathing at once, and the sub, hanging in the black, becomes a lung that forgot how to move. The ellipse waits, heat halo shivering over its skin where there should be no heat. Our pings go out like polite knocks on a cathedral door. They come back late and altered, a lull folded into a heartbeat. Try matching it, Reyes says, eyes never leaving the glass. Keep power low. Tomo licks his lips, fingers dancing over the board. Broadcasting at -20 dB. Harmonic stack at 1 and 3. I lay the whale's phrases over the spectrogram, then filter, then shift formants, trying to braid our tone with theirs without making a mess of the water. The knock slides closer, then slips away as if something on the other side is humoring us, letting us think we're leading. Above us, through miles of weight, the whales swell in a sudden, solemn chorus. Their voices rake through me, long, vowel-dark ropes of sound, the punctuation of breath. It's not singing, it's work. It's holding. It's responding, Anna says. Her hands are fists on the back of my chair. It's adjusting to them. Or they're adjusting to it. I say, and I don't know which scares me more. Devin's voice crackles from topside, too loud in our ears. I need clean data. If the whales are interfering, we'll counter-broadcast. No, Reyes snaps. Negative on jamming. We don't know what they're. A high click, a decision made on a different deck. The chorus above cuts off mid-phrase, severed with a neatness that makes me flinch. The hydrophones go from ocean to office. Hiss and instrument noise and the tiny sounds of us breathing. The absence hits like cold water up the nose. What did you do? Anna whispers. She sounds smaller. Removed interference, Devin says, triumph running under his tone like a current. Proceed. The ellipse's knock falters once, as if it missed a step in the dark. The heat haze tightens. The silence around the hull grows teeth. I cycle through patterns because my hands need to be doing something. My mouth moves before I can stop it. I hum. It's quiet at first, under the breath. The old melody, the one I haven't let myself touch in years. A riverbank. A boy's voice behind me, off-key and certain. My throat finds the notes without asking permission. On the screen, the seam appears. It's not light. It's the idea of a line, a thin knot blackness that runs around the ellipse like condensation tracing where a finger was. The glyphs tremble, not actually, but the water does, rearranged by something that has learned a new word. Hold position, Reyes says, too calm. Nobody touches anything. The seam warms. I feel it through the glass, through the bones of my face. The ellipse exhales. The water in front of it shears flat, holds for a beat, then pulls, not in a rush but as if invited, parting like a curtain with weight. The smell hits us in the same instant, impossible and immediate. Ozone and old stone and the faint iron of a place that remembers weather. Jesus, Tomo says. Pressure. Hold on. Readings are wrong. The door swings inward without hinges. No pivot. No mechanics I can name. It opens the way a mouth opens when it wants to speak. Beyond the line, there isn't water. There's air, pale, dust thick. Motes turning slow in a draft I can feel against my teeth. The ROV's camera stares into a corridor that shouldn't have shape at this depth. The walls curve like cartilage polished by tongues of light, veined with a faint bioluminescence that pulses in a slow, patient cadence. The floor looks grown, spine smooth, slightly crowned in the center, as if built for things that never had feet. Is that dry? Anna says, awe and horror braided together. It can't be. Check the ROV's temp, Reyes says. Her voice has edged away from human. And push the nose in. Slowly. Tomo breathes once, twice, and nudges the joystick. The ROV drifts forward. At the threshold, water beads along the seam in a trembling curtain. Droplets gather, hang like mercury, then zip sideways and vanish into nothing. The manipulator crosses and leaves the ocean behind without a ripple. Sensors spike, then settle to a number my brain refuses. Ambient 19 degrees. Wind speed 1. Wind. My stomach drops. Inside, Reyes says. 2 meters. Pan. The camera obeys. The corridor stretches, longer than the lights and somehow intimate, like a throat. There's no sound from within but the ROV's own, muffled and wrong. No movement. No dust disturbed by our intrusion. No things scuttling away into niches. Only the slow pulse of the veins and the vast, held breath of something that has waited too long. Devin is saying something about samples. Anna's hand is on my shoulder, bone hard. I barely feel it. I'm listening for the knock, for the words that thread the static. I'm listening for my name. The hydrophones give me nothing. The whales are gone. The corridor doesn't care. Nothing reacts. It should be a relief. It isn't. The worst horror is not a monster rushing the light. It's the light going in and finding a place ready for you, and empty. We edge the sub closer until the seam fills the dome like a fallen halo. The water at the threshold is a trembling curtain. Beyond it, dust spins in a slow draft. Our ROV's tether hums softly through the umbilical. I can feel the difference between water and air with my teeth. 2 meters inside, Reyes says. Keep the tether loose, not sloppy. Telemetry stable, Tomo answers. Time code rolling. The ROV glides farther into the corridor. Inside sounds wrong. The ocean's hiss drops away and the ROV mic picks up a room tone I can't name. Dry, granular, charged like air before lightning. Every tiny motor noise blooms and dies too fast, as if the space is swallowing echoes whole. The light schemes the walls, cartilage smooth, curving inward like a throat, veined with a faint bioluminescence that pulses in a slow, non-human patience. The glow doesn't cast shadows so much as soften them, as if the corridor is lit from inside its own skin. Here and there, the material swells into fossil forms, teeth set in a seam, ridges like ribs, the spiral of a shell half dissolved into the wall. Things that might have grown here or come here and been swallowed. It looks grown, Anna says, reverent, horrified, like it accreted out of pressure. I'm not paid for poetry, Devin says in our ears from topside, the brightness in his voice gone brittle. Keep going. We do. The floor rises slightly, crowned like a spine. The ROV's shadow rolls over indentations as regular as footprints and as wrong. Dust hangs like plankton caught in a moonbeam, each mote a quiet star. I can smell something that shouldn't carry this far. The iron memory of rain on stone, a bite of ozone that sits at the back of my throat. Wind 1 meter per second. Tomo reads, disbelieving. Humidity 48%. Depth 11,000 meters. He laughs once, a sound that isn't humor. Sure. Don't get cute, Reyes says. But her voice has the edge you hear when people look at an altar and don't know which god it belongs to. The ROV drifts into a chamber. The ceiling vaults high out of our light, and then low again, intimate, the geometry talking in curves. The wall directly ahead is different, flatter, faced, a relief of grooves cut in clustered arrays. At first it reads like decoration. Then my brain does the bad, automatic thing. It starts to read. Hold there, I whisper. Zoom in. On macro, the grooves resolve into ripple rows, each cluster made of lines separated by precise distances, tiny variations repeating like a phrase trying new angles. Ratios whisper at me. 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Vowel space, my hindbrain mutters. Format maps. It's not notes. It's mouth shapes. Anna. I say, more breath than sound. They're not pictures. I don't finish. I run my finger along the spectrogram on my screen, as if that will bridge water and air. I think this is an archive. Whale vowel ratios. If the whales are the lock, this is the keyhole. Then key it, Devin says immediately. Broadcast. No, Reyes and I say together. The corridor seems to lean closer. My neck prickles. Tomo inhales. Anyone else's time code off. I blink at the corner of my monitor. The ROV's counter has slipped 6 seconds ahead of the subs. The sub's clock stutters and then retunes itself to match, as if embarrassed. Probably drift, Devin says. A loop glitch. It's not drift, Tomo says. It jumped. On the ROV audio, a voice says, hold, clear as glass. My spine locks. It's me. It's my voice in the room tone. But my mouth is shut, and I'm busy trying not to breathe too loud. I start. I heard it. Anna says, fingers digging into the back of my chair. You didn't key in. The word hangs. The chamber gives nothing back except the slow pulse of its veins. Dust wheels. Something tickles the mic. Not wind exactly. More like breath moving around a mouth that hasn't opened yet. Back it out, Reyes says. I want you 1 meter off that wall. Tomo eases the joystick. The ROV obeys, and for a fraction of a second the video delays, like the corridor forgot to give us the next frame. The feed catches up. The grooves are still there, waiting to be spoken. Record everything, Reyes says lower. We're not touching, we're not talking, we're wasting time, Devin cuts in. Give me a scrape from that surface. Reyes says nothing. The sub hums. The corridor listens. In my headset, a whisper brushes the noise floor and almost makes a word of it. The room smells older somehow. Older than the ship. Older than our names. I realize, with the crystalline clarity that only fear gives you, that whatever made this place understands breath. It is listening not to our words but to the spaces between them, measuring our lungs like calipers. We back out on my mark, Reyes says. On 3. We all hold the same breath, and the chamber, patient, pulses once as if counting with us. 1, Reyes says. 2, 3. The chamber says with us, not in sound but in a small pulse that runs through the walls and into my teeth. It knows how to wait. It knows how to count. Tomo backs the ROV a meter off the carved wall. The tether whispers through the umbilical. Dust turns lazy circles in the draft and never settles. The air on the other side looks thin and used, as if the room has been breathing without lungs. Copy that. Devin crackles from topside. Now let's move. Deeper in, not sightseeing. Negative, Reyes says. We don't push blind. My own voice, bright and obedient, comes back on the ROV mic. Copy that. I don't say it. The hair on my arms tries to lift under neoprene. I start. We heard you. Tomo says, not looking at me. His tongue touches the corner of his mouth the way it does when he's concentrating. I can tell he's not sure whether to be angry or afraid. Anna's hand is on my shoulder, bone through suit, a small anchor. It's just reflection, she says, and the lie is so gentle it almost works. We roll forward into a second chamber where the ceiling drops to a low arch. The walls here carry the same ribs and ripple writing. There's a smell through the seam, stronger now, ozone and cold dust and the iron tang of rain on stone. A draft brushes the mic and makes a sound like syllables thinking of becoming. The ROV pans left. In the corner, something like a bench grows out of the wall. Not furniture, more like a ledge worn smooth by a habit. The camera pauses there, and the ROV audio picks up a soft clearing of a throat. Checklist. A voice says, crisp, clipped. Ballast. Thrusters. Lights. Reyes stills. The word doesn't leave her mouth, but I hear it inside the bones of the sub. No. She knows that voice. We all do, because for a year after the accident it opened every meeting. It belonged to Lieutenant Marta Sloan, Reyes's co-pilot, whose last transmission ended with salt and a rising tone and nothing after. Stop, Reyes says, and her voice has changed shape around the word. That isn't. Thrusters nominal. The voice continues, carelessly perfect. Then it adds, how's your shoulder, Cap? Still catching on the weather? Sloan had dislocated it their first year out. The detail slides under Reyes's composure like a knife under skin. Devin inhales audibly. Audio bounce, he says too fast. They're pulling public logs. Old recordings. It's, public logs don't know my weather shoulder, Reyes says, and the flatness in her tone could split an anchor chain. The chamber hums, patient. Dust wheels. The mic catches a sigh so close it fogs my visor. Impossible, yet there. A voice steps into the space it makes. Hey, Minnow. I don't have that name anymore. It belongs to a river and a boy with sand on his shins and a laugh that started with a cough. It hits me like freezing water up the back of my skull. The ROV mic is a throat, and what talks through it wears my brother's cadence like a mask. The room tilts. Don't. I say before I mean to. I have no idea who I'm speaking to. Don't do that. Anna's breath stutters. You okay? Her question is a rope thrown without asking where it lands. It's taking the vowel ratios. I say, words coming out wrong, too fast. My brain claws for work. It's pairing them with our breath signatures, latency patterns. It's reading us. It's learning how we leave space. On the feed, my brother's voice tries again, gentle. You left your lunch on the riverbank, remember? You made me go back for it, and we found the crayfish. You cried when it pinched you and pretended not to. That's true. I never told anyone about the way I pretended. It's not a memory you can scrape from a file. The sound is almost right, almost, but the timing is greedy. It steps on my thoughts. He never did that when he was alive. He left room. Back it out, Reyes says, steady again through some act of will I don't have. We're done. Absolutely not, Devin snaps. We are sitting on a communications interface. Do you understand the licensing? The tech. The ROV shutter flickers a single frame behind, like a blink. In that hiccup of video, the grooves on the archive wall seem to deepen, shadows where there weren't shadows. The draft shifts, playful as a cat under a door. The ROV's mic catches the smallest smacking sound of a mouth wetting lips that aren't there. Open up, my brother says, easy as summer. You don't have to lose me again. I taste battery and bile. My thumb hovers over the mute. Muting won't stop it. Silence is just another shape it can use. Tomo's fingers tremble on the joystick. Pressure at the seams fluctuating. Whales are still jammed. Anna whispers, as if the corridor could hear her. Her eyes are wet and hard. They would know what to sing. Devin leans into his mic as if he can force authority into the air. Transmit a sweep from the archive patterns, he says. We'll see what answers. No, Reyes says. We hold. We get out. The chamber breathes on the back of my eyes, on the inside of my mouth. It has the patience of stone and the hunger of tide. It already knows the shapes of us. All it needs is a word. Or the lack of one. Please, my brother says, and there it is, the little cough before the laugh, perfect. Then the extra beat afterward, wrong. I hear you. I say, to the thing that isn't him. And I'm not answering. Devin talks over Reyes's count, his voice sharp with a decision he's already made. We're done tiptoeing. Broadcasting archive cord, stacked from the wall arrays. 3, 2. Devin, stand down, Reyes snaps. That's an order. The sub hums as the ROV's tiny speaker opens its throat. The sound that comes out isn't loud. It's dense. The chord is a braid of whale vowels we stitched together from the grooves, formants riding each other in tight, impossible ratios. It feels like putting your tongue on a battery you can't see. The corridor reacts. The walls don't vibrate so much as flex, a slow bowing that runs around us like a muscle tightening. The floor arches, a long, careful inhale. Dust hangs, then falls upward, then sideways, then remembers how to be dust again. My teeth ache, the kind of hurt you get when the weather changes inside your skull. Cut it, Reyes says. Cut it now. Signal's not from us anymore, Tomo whispers. On his scope the trace keeps going after he mutes the feed, like the room learned the tune and no longer needs the singer. On video, the corridor's veins flare, bioluminescence braiding into a lattice that maps a shape we don't have words for. The ROV drifts, leashed at the edge of the chamber, and the tether trembles in a wind we can't feel. I smell ozone and a thin, metallic rain. The seam at the ellipse, our door, changes its mind. It had been a line opening inward. Now it rotates without moving, a hinge with no hinge, and the open side turns to face the ocean. The threshold yawns wider, not a mouth now, but a blowhole. Something pushes out. It isn't water. It's darker than the trench and shinier than oil. A brine so cold the thermal camera whines, bubbling with pinpricks of light that move like thoughts. It rolls into the sea and the sea shivers around it, current edges slicing past the dome with the precision of a knife. Pressure spike, Tomo says, too calm. Hull strain with intolerance, barely. Anna makes a small sound, prayer-shaped. It's exhaling. On the comm, Devin laughs. It's an ugly, relieved bark that turns into a cough, which turns into something with rhythm. His mic stays hot. We all hear the way air moves in his mouth, the way his throat resets. The laugh repeats, not as a laugh, but as a loop, each time finer, each time more like a note pressed through a reed. Devin, Reyes says, kill your feet. Now. He tries to answer. What comes out of him is voice-shaped, but misfiled. The same stacked vowel we broadcast, only richer for having found a human cavity. His breath becomes the instrument. The chord sits on his tongue and uses his mouth to round itself out, to practice vowels with a palate. He gags, but it doesn't break. The comm picks up the slick sound of lips parting too far. Topside, cut power to control, Reyes orders. Her voice is steady because it has to be. Medical to liaison. Now. The brine curls around the rim of the door like smoke learning to swim. Where it touches open ocean, the water blooms a pale, sorrowful blue. My sonar screen explodes, returns flower into rosettes, circles within circles, patterns too clean for geology. I've never seen the deep draw mandalas. There. Anna breathes, pointing at nothing and everything. Listen. We don't hear the whales in our headsets. Devin jammed them into our silence. But the hull does. The hull feels the long phrases coming down from above, those old, stern lines of sound, and it translates them into a shiver. I recognize the way a child recognizes their name whispered through a door. They're pushing back. Not at us. At the thing extruding through the seam. It hits me then, full and bright and cold. They've been singing to hold this shut. The patterns on the wall weren't an invitation. They were a warning label written in breath. Back us out, Reyes says through her teeth. Tomo, full aft now. Keep the tether clear. Do not let that brine touch the umbilical. The thrusters answer with a strained snarl. The sub creeps backward. The brine reaches and doesn't reach, fingers made of temperature and silence. On the feed, the corridor's center bows again, a diaphragm flexing. The archive wall deepens, ridges becoming clefts, clefts becoming mouths. The cord that started as ours, and then became Devin's threads through the chamber like a spine. I hear Sloane's voice call checklist items in that cadence. I hear my brother say my name in the little cough before the laugh. The timing almost right now, like a hand fitting the glove it means to wear out. Devin, breathe. I tell a man I cannot see. It's a ridiculous instruction, but I mean, make your breath yours. Don't let it count for something else. Tomo's knuckles are white. Tether's singing, he says. So it is. The cord hums through the hull, a subcutaneous tone that makes the dome quiver. The brine swirls nearer. For a heartbeat, the water on our side learns to be thicker, and the sub lists as if the sea forgot one of its own rules. Hold it, Reyes says to all of us and to the ocean. Hold. The whales find a new phrase, lower, older. The rosettes on my sonar shudder and settle, as if the map of the deep just remembered a different coastline. The brine falters. Only a little. Not enough. We have opened something that doesn't want to close. We run. Reyes hauls the sub back by inches, thrusters snarling against water that suddenly has the thickness of breath. The brine flowers outward from the door like smoke, remembering it was sea once. The sonar paints rosettes that refuse to be useful. My tongue tastes like a copper penny forgotten under the couch. Tomo, reel the ROV, Reyes says. Keep her tight. No slack around that seam. Copy. His hands flutter over the joysticks, precise and shaking. The tether hums like a lone note under our feet. On the feed, the corridor's veins strobe, bioluminescence pulsing in a heartbeat too slow to be human, too patient to be anything we know. The chamber narrows, then isn't narrow, geometry folding like memory when you tell it twice. It's changing, Anna whispers. The architecture's hurting. The corridor obliges her. The wall we backed past is not where we left it. The ROV nudges into an elbow that wasn't there 50 seconds ago. Dust turns in a deliberate draft. The mic picks up a sound that could be wind and is not. Its syllables not yet decided. Left, Sloane's voice says through the ROV. Sloane, dead and certain. 2 meters, cap. Then straight into daylight. Reyes doesn't breathe. That's not her. Daylight where? I ask, and the thing obligingly gives me an answer. The camera grabs a single white frame of open air and blue sky beyond a lip. When the video catches up, the image is gone. The aftertaste of it is sweet and wrong. Don't look at it, Reyes says, voice steady by force. Sound off. We think. We don't follow. The whales are still jammed in our headsets, but the hull shivers with their work, a low, old pressure that steadies the parts of me with names. The brine kisses our beam, and the light bends away. It looks almost curious. Counter-pattern, I say, and my mouth dry swallows the word. If it's steering with voice shapes, we can steer back. Not a jam, an answer. Do it, Reyes says. We don't have a choir, just a few sad speakers and a sonar head never meant for singing. Tomo reroutes power. I drag archived whale phrases from memory into the board. Humpback vowels I'd mapped for beauty and never for war. Stacking them low, subtracting harmonics where the corridor likes to live. My hand hovers. Then I add the smallest thread of my old lullaby, not as a melody, but as a metronome. A pulse to tell the room we will not be led. Broadcasting, Tomo says. The sub becomes a mouth. Sound presses out of us into the seam like heat. Nothing you can hear with ears, and everything your bones understand. The corridor twitches. The bioluminescent veins cinch, then slacken, like muscle catching a cramp. On the feed, walls that were lean away. It's working, Anna says, a prayer disguised as a fact. The brine stiffens, its surface spiking into a field of tiny quills. The tether's low hum goes sharp. Tomo gasps and grabs his throat. Hey, I reach for him. His eyes are too wide, whites showing, pupils blown. The skin at the hinge of his jaw flutters, not with panic, but with a rhythm trying to live there. His mouth opens on a sound that isn't his, a vowel stacked on itself until it becomes a shape. Marta, he says, but it is Sloane's timbre wearing Tomo's tongue, precise and fond. Captain, you can let go. Reyes's hand finds the arm of her chair and stays there. I won't. Tomo's chest pulses in someone else's cadence. The chord we broadcast folds through him and comes back refined, the way Devon's did. His breath becomes a tool, an instrument rented out without his consent. The comm picks up the soft click of his palate as the thing explores how to be him. Fight it, I tell him uselessly. Make your breath yours. His eyes find mine, and for a second he is there. He taps twice on the console, a tiny code we made the first week when the comms lagged. 2 taps means, yes. He draws an air, a human inhale full of edges, and the cadence stumbles. Again, I whisper. Again. I lay more whales under him. Deeper, older phrases I'd only ever admired. I shift the lullaby's pulse half a beat off, a stubborn arrhythmia. The wall flinches. The draft that makes almost words falters. Our crude choir isn't strong enough to close anything, but it bruises the room. It buys us space. Real, Reyes says. Bring the ROV home. The tether pays in. The corridor tries one more trick, my brother's voice in the seam, gentled by grief I didn't give it. Please, Minnow. Just this once. I don't look at the seam. I watch Tomo breathe. Every time he chooses his own timing, the door's edge dims a fraction. It wants an invitation, Anna says, voice thin. It wants in. It wants an anchor, I hear myself say, and the idea lands like cold iron. The patterns on the wall, the whale's work, the lung of a corridor at the bottom of the world. Locks don't hold without something living to wear them. A breath that belongs. That's how it closes. That's how it stays shut. Outside, the brine rolls and thinks. Inside, our crude choir keeps time like a heart that refuses to be borrowed. It clicks together the way a wound closes. Ugly, necessary. The patterns, the whales, the lung of a corridor. All locks need a living anchor. A breath that belongs. It has to be me, I say. The words leave a taste like old pennies. Reyes doesn't look at me, because looking would make it real. What does that mean, precisely? You unjam the whales, I tell Tomo, and my voice surprises me by being steady. Let them in. I'll give the lock a pulse to hold. Not a song. Not words. Breath. Topside's blacked out. Tomo says, fingers flying. Jammer's local now. I can cut it. Do it, Reyes says. The hull shivers, and the room fills with a pressure older than our names. The whales return like weather. Low, stern phrases shouldering into the water. Not pretty, not kind. Something in my bones stands up straighter. On my lap, my old recorder is warm with handling. My thumb hovers over the last file I have of my brother. 16 seconds of summer. He laughs once, coughs, says Minnow in a way that turns me into 12 again. The corridor hears that sweetness in my head and leans. Delete? Asks the screen. Yes, I say out loud, before I can grow a second mind. The confirmation button is small and human and final. The little icon disappears. The hole it leaves knocks. The chamber hears the absence and tries to fill it. The ROV feed brightens, and the voice builds itself almost perfect. The stain on his jacket, the cough before the laugh, the way he always took an extra beat to let me speak. It's all there. Then it adds one more beat, greedy. Please, he says. Open it. You don't have to lose me again. I put the mic to my mouth and don't answer. I breathe. Long in. Short out. Upsulse. I set the sub to broadcast the shape of my lungs, nothing else. No lullaby, no hook, just the honest, boring metronome of a body that refuses to be borrowed. Ride her, Reyes says to no one in particular. Maybe to the whales, maybe to me. If she sets the tempo, you hold it. Tomo routes power to the sonar head, and the sub becomes a drum. Our pulses go out into the corridor as a quiet insistence. Above, the whales swing their phrases in behind me, answering my cadence with an older one, weight leaning into weight. The lattice of bioluminescence in the heart chamber flickers, arrhythmic. The floor bows on my inhale and doesn't find a place to land on my exhale. It's closing, Anna breathes. The seam at the ellipse remembers it was meant to be a line. The brine falters, quills smoothing. On my scope, the rosettes collapse inward like flowers at night. The draft in the chamber shifts, and the sound it was thinking of being dies on the edge of a syllable. Then it comes from my mouth. It doesn't cross the water. It doesn't have to. It steps into the gap between breath and word and tries to stand there. My lips part. Muscles I don't control shape a vowel I did not choose. The little cough before the laugh makes a nest in my throat. Bite, Reyes says, and her hand is sudden and human on my jaw, knuckles hard, keeping my teeth closed. Breathe with me. We count together, me and Reyes and the whales and the hull. In, out, in, out. No decoration, no prayer. The chamber rages quiet. The walls flex, a whole organ spasming. The ROV's feed judders. For a frame, the grooves on the archive wall become mouths, and every one of them is forming my name. The tether sings a high, panicked note. The seam pinches. Brine claws at nothing, reduced to temperature and resentment. Cut the line, Reyes says, soft as a knife. Tomo thumbs the release. The tether snaps with a clean, bright twang that makes my molars ring. The ROV drifts inward as if carried by a sigh and vanishes into the dark. Sacrifice is a thing you feel in your fingertips. The corridor tries one last time to make my mouth its instrument. It finds the empty place where the recording used to live and throws itself against it, expecting a door. I give it silence. I give it pulse. The seam seals with a sound like wet glass kissing, then letting go. Pressure tilts. The sonar rosettes go out like candles under a lid. Outside, the brine folds back into itself and evaporates into the idea of cold. For a heartbeat, something very old breathes through me anyway. A thin sliver of its song riding the back of my exhale, a hair caught in the throat of a wind instrument. It is not a voice. It is the memory of one. Then it's just me again, mouth full of blood taste where I bit my tongue. The hull relaxes a fraction. The whales above drop to a murmur. The room's air gone stale and sweet with victory and loss. Reyes's hand is still on my jaw. She lets go slowly, as if I might be glass. You with me? I nod. Hold, I say, and realize I'm not giving an order. I'm stating a vow. We broke the surface inside a skin of foam, and everything was too bright. Sky slammed into the dome in a blue I didn't think I remembered. The hull exhaled in pops and pings as the pressure let us go. I could smell diesel and hot rope and people, real sweat, coffee gone sour, oranges someone had peeled on deck. We sat there for a breath we didn't know we were holding. Then the winch had us, and the sea fell away like a curtain. Hands banged the hatch. The world arrived as noise. Eyes, Reyes said, and kept her hand on my shoulder until the lock spun. Deck heat slapped the cold out of my suit. Crew voices overlapped. Numbers, orders, someone laughing too loud because the body demands it. Over the railing, the whales were a dark parenthesis on the slick water. They circled once, measured, acknowledging, then sank and were gone, like a sentence deciding not to continue. They took Devon off control on a gurney. He wasn't sedated yet. His jaw worked on a word he couldn't quite release. A vowel stretched and polished until it made a shape all its own. "Deliv," he managed. Then his mouth rounded without him. The sound that came next had nothing to do with language. The medic swore softly. When they lifted him, his breath made a tone in the space under the stretcher. "Bring him inside," Reyes said, and there was something in her voice that made people move. The company counselor met us at the foot of the ladder with a binder fat with red tabs. Her hair didn't move in the wind. "We'll need incident reports," she said, voice pitched to soothe. "And signatures. A hydrate blowout is a scary thing, but it wasn't a hydrate blowout," Anna said, so quiet it would have been easy to pretend she hadn't spoken. "Of course," the counselor said. "Do you want coffee?" The word "of course" did a lot of work. She handed me a pen like a knife handle. The paper smelled like toner and new plastic. The clause about non-disclosure was printed in a font that wanted to be friendly. I signed, not because I believed the lie, but because the thing I owed now had nothing to do with her. Tomo sat on a coil of line in the shade of the ROV bay, fingers pressed to the muscles at his jaw, as if holding them in place. Every few seconds, he touched thumb to ring finger twice. 2 taps. Yes, he was still himself. The skin around his knuckles was bloodless where he kept choosing to be. Anna rinsed the hydrophones in fresh water with the tenderness of washing a child. She didn't cry. She didn't laugh. Her mouth set itself around a word she didn't say. Reyes stood at the rail and watched the water like it might tunnel up and take back what we kept. When she finally turned, she looked at me, and I understood the order that wasn't an order. In the radio room, the air had a stale, sweet tang, old coffee and insulation and the ghost of ozone. I sat at the desk with my recorder and a legal pad and felt the ship's small, honest vibrations come up through the metal into my bones. Somewhere below, the trench had closed its mouth. Somewhere above, the whales set down their burden for an hour. I recorded the log. "The door is sealed," I said. My voice came out steady. "The corridor is gone. The trench is ordinary again." That last sentence was the lie that pretends to be mercy. When I finished, the room was colder than I remembered. The AC kicked too high in an effort to make a small space manageable. I stood, walked to the porthole, and cupped my hands around my breath until the glass took it. Condensation bloomed, then thinned. In the thinness, a hairline seemed formed. It ran a clean ellipse along the lower edge, a line that wasn't a line, just a place where the water couldn't decide. "Don't," I told it, the way you tell yourself not to pick a scab. The seam held. It gathered itself into a suggestion of glyphs, the pattern my fingers had traced 11,000 meters down. When I leaned closer, a warmth bled through the chill of the glass. Nothing dramatic, just a pulse under the skin of a window. I wiped it with the heel of my hand. The line vanished. I breathed again without meaning to, and it began to reappear, faint, patient. On the deck, someone dropped a wrench and swore. Somewhere down the corridor, Devon's voice tried on a word and couldn't wear it yet. The ship turned its bow toward land. The ocean looked innocent in the way only something immense can pull off. Back at the mic, I said it so I would hear myself believe it. "Some doors don't close," I recorded. "They move." The last of the day ran a hard line of gold along the horizon. My exhale found it, and the faintest harmony rode my breath. None of it words, all of it shape. My brother's cadence without the boy, the memory of a cough before a laugh. I didn't answer. I chose pulse. Far off, in water too deep for light, something very old took a breath and let it go.